Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to talk to everybody again tonight about the SS4 form. It's the application for an employer identification number. And this is all in line with the PMA and the 1099 process and everything. So we want to talk about this particular form here and how to fill it out. And again, like I said, everybody's situation is going to be different, so I can't tell you how to fill it out. All I can teach you is, or try to help you with, is try to help you comprehend how to take the information in and discern whether it's important for you to use it or not, and how to use it. And the first thing I want to talk about with the SS4 form, like I said, it's the application for employer identification number. And for the very first number one on the application, it's the legal name of entity or individual for whom the EIN is being requested. Okay? And when we see the instructions, we look down under number one, and one of the things it talks about, if I go to this page, the first thing it talks about here is the individuals. Enter your first name, middle initial, and last name if you're a sole proprietor. Enter your individual name, not your business name. Enter your business name on line 2. Don't use abbreviations or nicknames on line 1. What did it just say? Isn't a middle initial an abbreviation? So they're basically, for individuals, enter your first name, middle initial, and last name. And then they're telling you, don't use abbreviations or nicknames on line 1. So technically, you're not supposed to use your middle initial, are you? So anyway, we go down to the second one, and it says trusts. Enter the name of the trust as it appears on the trust instrument. Now, I don't know if you guys are going to comprehend this, but neither one of those first two applies in regards to all of these instruments. They're all set upon a bond first. And that bond is, according to this here, the third one, which is a state of decedents. A state of decedent. Enter the name of the estate. For an estate that has no legal name, enter the name of the decedent followed by estate. So when we look back at the top of the post here, now we're going to take a look at 31 U.S.C. 1321, subsection 73, wherein it defines Title 31 of the United States Code. We're talking about the commercial activities, money and finance and stuff. And this one here is section 1321, specifically talks about trust funds. So now we're talking about either one or two, and possibly even one. But when it comes to estates of decedents, that's what I believe, in my opinion, we need to clarify it as, because it coincides with Title 31 of the United States Code, Section 1321, Trust Funds, subsection 73, wherein it specifically states estate of decedents. Just like it does in the application for the SS4 application for an employer's identification number. So think about this stuff, people, and realize there is a tie-in, and there's the parity. They do have quasi-contracts going on in this stuff. And so when we get down to the very first element I want to talk to you about on this SS4 application, when we read these applications, we need to read everything on them, not just the questions within the boxes and stuff. And when we look at the very first thing on this piece of paper here, or this what I'm looking at is a PDF. It's on a monitor. But when you print it out and everything, or whether you're looking at it online, the very first thing here says Form SS4. And it's boxed off. So you don't continue reading on. You continue reading off in that little box. And then you go to the next box. And so this first box, it says Form. And it's in little tiny script. Not tiny script, but regular size script like this. And then SS4 is big letters like this. Bold. Real dark, bold letters. And then it says, in parentheses, REV period, December 2017. And then unparenthesis. That means, of course, it was revised December of 2017. That's the last time this form was revised. But what I want everybody to pay attention to here is that this is a Social Security application, right? SS4, Social Security application for employer identification number. Now, Social Security account, why do we need to apply for an employer identification number? And when we do, why is this form printed up by Department of Treasury Internal Revenue Service? Why is it? Because I'm telling you, folks, they have a quasi-contract going on in which they all operate together to manage the ledgers. And they're all setting up these regulations that work interchangeably throughout the jurisdictions. But all these transactions initially have to be handled by a chief financial officer. And when it comes to the court, that's the clerks. When it comes to the IRS, that's the commissioner. When it comes to the Department of the Treasury, that's the Comptroller of Currency or the Comptroller General. When it comes to your state, it's the Secretary of State, Treasurer. Let's see here. I want to pull up a SS5. Application for Social Security card. And in that top right-hand corner, it doesn't have that. It just says Social Security Administration application for a Social Security card. Okay? But on this particular application, number 5, they want to know citizenship. Check 1. First one, of course, they want to know if you're a U.S. citizen. They want to know if you're part of that quasi-operating corporation of the United States who has contracted with the Federal Reserve and the states and the UCC and the IRS and the Department of the Treasury. They want to know if you're part of that private membership association or claim to be. And then, of course, your second option is legal alien allowed to work. Are you a legal alien? Fuck no, I'm not alien. You're the fucking alien. You're the ones that are occupying this land. That's why you have occupations. Legal alien, not allowed to work. Every man is worthy of his hire. I don't care if you're legal or a national. Who has the right to tell you you're not allowed to work? No one. Think about this ignorant shit, people. But anyway, we got to start reading these forms. And so back to the SS4 form. When we talk about a estate of decedent, it says, enter the name of the estate. For an estate that has no legal name, enter the name of the decedent, followed by the estate. Okay? Now, if our estate is truly held in a person, then we would enter the estate in the person's name, which is the fictional all caps, or the upper and lower in military style or corporate style, whichever style they're considering in their courts. Whereas if it's a lawful estate on the private side, it's written up on a private registry and it doesn't enter the public. Their public probate system is only for poor people who don't have somebody to stand up and prove their will for them once they're deceased. See, you got to think about this stuff. So again, when it comes to the SS4 application for employer identification number, that very first section there, legal name of entity for individual or individual for whom the EIN is being requested. That tells you right there that it's separate. The estate itself is separate from the name. So think about this stuff, people, and realize you have that right to again, like I've professed all along, to operate their public estate through person under the Public Charitable Trust, under the U.S. Federal Code, Title 31, Trust Funds, Money and Finances, Section 1321, subsection 73, where it says estate of decedents. Department of State, who is the authority over what I said earlier, Comptroller General, Comptroller of Currency, Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service. So when we are able to discern the two differences, again, UCC 3-402B1, it clarifies the same difference. Now we're just going to start filing these documents in the correct manner, using the correct grammar in the right places. Quit just going blindly and marking off U.S. citizen. And again, I don't take this as me explaining that you have to file their forms. Again, I'm going to reaffirm that you do not have to file their forms. You can file notices, a declaration of foreign state status, oath of allegiance, declaring all this stuff in it. You do not have to use their forms. But either way you do, make sure you know what you're telling them. These forms here, they're asking you to fill out these forms. If you fill them out wrong and you don't get the desired effect, you have to write them back and ask them, or call them up and ask them, what is the error? You want to correct your status so that you can use these debt instruments appropriately to your benefit, so that you have a valid use of them. Otherwise, if you're not allowed to use them to your benefit, and it is in fact detrimental, then you have to have some way of compensating you for having to step out of that system so you can learn how to use it. Because, again, like I said, they're certainly not teaching us. And that's why they're supposed to be truthful when we ask them questions about these forms. Well, how do I correct that? How do I assert my status as a private individual, not subject to this corporate entity, being able to show them that I'm not liable according to UCC, according to the Federal Code, 12 U.S.C. 411, Savings Suitors Clause, Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, Commerce Clause, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 14th Amendments. All clarifying that there's a separation of powers. And that's what we've got to do, again, like I said, either on these forms or in our own affidavits, statements, declarations, whatever you want to call them, so that we can clarify them pointedly in our private documents. Again, I urge you guys to look. Again, I'm not telling you to dismiss their forms totally. Like I've said before, read these forms. Find out what they're asking you. Find out what they're telling you. Start researching this information. Find out where it coincides. Like I just showed you, the SS4 coincides as printed by the Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service, and it talks about trust funds and estates of decedents. Then all of a sudden we see Title 31 of the United States Code, Section 1321, where it mentions trust funds, and the subsection in there, 73, where it talks about estates of decedents. Department of State, trust funds. That's who has the fiduciary assignment over all trust funds, the Department of State. Comprehend this stuff, people. And again, remember, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless you. Love you. Have a great night. Bye.